Hallo and welcome to chapter 10. In this chapter you will learn the gender rules in German. This will help you a lot in order to find out whether a noun is female, masculine or neutral. So this chapter will help you a lot if you have troubles with defining the gender of nouns in German, which is very possible. Okay, so this chapter is called Genusregeln, which are the gender rules. So let's start with the feminine articles. Okay, which is the feminine article die, and here you have the feminine endings. So how to define whether a noun is female, for example, a hint are the endings of the nouns. So whenever you see certain endings, you know it must be female. You will always find exceptions, but here the endings that you will learn on this slide, most of the time they are female. Okay, so if you study them, this will help you a lot in order to define the gender. And it is very important to know the gender of the nouns in German grammar. You will see how important it is later on when you start learning the grammatical cases and the adjective declination and so forth and so on. Okay, so let's have a look at the first ending here, which is I. The ending I is a typical female ending. Die Bäckerei, which means the bakery. Die Bücherei, the library. We have many more words. Die Metzgerei, for example, and so on. Okay, I is a typical ending. This is the female version of let's say of a person, because while in English you always say, for example, teacher, and then just by teacher, by the word itself, you don't know whether the person is female or masculine. In German, it is very important to define whether the person is female or masculine. If you talk about a professor, teacher, neighbor, and so on and so forth, you have to add the ending IN. Okay, most of the time this IN means that the person you talk about is female. So Lehrerin, for example, is a female teacher. If you just say Lehrer without the ending IN, it means that the teacher is masculine. Okay, this is a typical female ending. Schülerin is a female student. If you just say Schüler, then it's a male student. We use that very often. Okay, we also have, of course, a few exceptions, but the ending IN is typical for a female noun or female person also. And then we have Kite. Kite is a typical female ending. Ähnlichkeit, similarity. Möglichkeit, possibility. Heit, okay. Gesundheit, Freiheit. Schaft, Wirtschaft, Landschaft. Like Heizung, Meinung. Okay. A at the end, or A, Kamera, Liga, Ade, Parade, Schokolade, for example. All typical female endings. Then we have ette, like die Toilette, die Zigarette, for example. IE at the end, which is pronounced like a long I, right? So it's I. Die Theorie, die Serie. This is pronounced a little bit different, but the IE at the end is typical for female nouns. Ich, like Musik oder Physik. Then Ine, Maschine, Blondine. Okay, Blondine is the blonde woman, die Blondine. Ion, Kommunikation, Produktion. Tät, Spezialität, Qualität. Ive, Alternative, Perspektive. Then we have Sis, Dosis, Skepsis, for example, und Ur, Natur, Kultur. So basically what you would have to do here is to learn those endings by heart, which will help you really a lot to define the articles. If you want to train them, there are also different applications that you can find in the App Store. You can put in Artikeltraining or der, die, das. There are different apps in the Play Store, and then you can. They are also for free. They don't cost anything, most of them. And then you can just train the articles and the nouns and their articles. Okay, this is a big help. You can try that out. But learning those endings would be also a great help for you. Okay, so let's have a look at the next slide. This slide is about the masculine endings. It's about the masculine article der. So here, let's have at the masculine endings, ich, for example, like der Honig, der König, Ling, der Zwilling, der Frühling, and der Student, der Agent. Okay, if you want to say a female student, Student is a student who goes to university. In the last slide we looked at Schüler oder Schülerin. This is the student who goes to school, let's say high school, primary school, and so on. Student is just for students at university. And if you want to say that this student is female, you would have to say Studentin, ending the in. Okay, and then Agentin would be the female agent. Here it's the masculine agent or Agent in German. Then ihr at the end, Indonesia, Juwelier. Okay, Ismus, Kapitalismus, Optimismus. Ist is a typical masculine ending. Buddhist, pianist. Here again you can add an in and then it's the female version. So here Buddhist, that's the masculine Buddhist. You would have to say Buddhistin if it was a female, or pianistin, that would be the female pianist. Then here the other endings, or, der Motor, der Chor, Friseur, Likör. Here this is the masculine hairdresser. If it was a female, you would have to say Friseurin. Okay, with the in at the end. Then we have Romantiker, Chemiker. Again, exactly the same rule. You would have to add an in order to say that it's a woman, and it's very important to specify. Like I myself, for example, I cannot say ich bin Lehrer. Lehrer means teacher. If I say ich bin Lehrer, it means that I'm a man. I'm a male teacher. This is what I'm saying if I say ich bin Lehrer. I would have to say ich bin Lehrerin. Okay, to stress out that I'm a female. Very important in German. I know in English, if you're an English native speaker, that doesn't really make a difference. You just say I'm a teacher, I'm a professor, and so on. But in German, you have to distinguish. Okay, very important. Then Ast, Gast, guest. Palast is the palace, and Redakteur, Ingenieur. This is how we pronounce it. Redakteur, Ingenieur. Okay. Let's have a look at the last slide. Here it's about the neutral article das and neutral nouns. Okay, here we have typical neutral endings. Let's start with the first one here, which is chen. Chen and line at the end of a noun means it's the diminutive form. It means that something is small, maybe sweet. Okay, so here Mädchen, it means girl, and it's das Mädchen. Now it's maybe a little bit confusing for people. Why is the girl neutral in the German language? It's obviously a female. It comes from the old German language where we used to say Magd to woman, and Mädchen, it came from the word Magd, and it actually means a little woman. Okay, so the girl is a little woman. We add the ending chen, which means that the person or the object is small. That's why Mädchen is neutral in German. It's because of the ending here. So think of a little woman, and then you know why it is das Mädchen for the girl instead of die Mädchen, right? Die Mädchen, it exists, but that it means the girls. It would be the plural form if you say die Mädchen. Okay, so singular, just one girl, it's das Mädchen. Then we have Fläschchen. Die Flasche means the bottle, aber das Fläschchen, it means the little bottle, or let's say the baby bottle. Fräulein means miss. It's a little bit old-fashioned to say that. Bächlein means the little brook. So this is all small objects or persons. Okay. The next ending is tel, hotel, Viertel. Tum, like das Eigentum, das Datum, Benzin, und Bewusstsein. Here we have an EI at the end, so we pronounce it as Bewusstsein. EI together is always pronounced as I. Okay, but still the ending here, the last two, is IN, so it's neutral. Now, it can be confusing because actually I just taught you that IN at the end means that it's a female version of a person, let's say, of a being. It's also for animals. For example, we often add an "in" in order to specify that the animal is female. Now there are of course always exceptions. Okay, so here benzene, it's about gasoline. Now we don't have to distinguish, and we can't, whether the gasoline is female or masculine, right? It's not about gender here. So here it's neutral in this case, just as with Bewusstsein. It's not about whether the person or the being is female or masculine in this case. It's that's why it's neutral. It's das Bewusstsein. Okay, keep that in mind, that not all nouns that have an "in" at the end are female. It can be also neutral if it's not about specifying the gender of the object, the person, let's say, or the being. Okay, o, radio, auto. Then infinitive here. We can take any verb in German. Like here, lernen actually means to learn, but we can form a noun of every verb that we have. So we can say das Lernen macht mir Spaß, which would mean the learning is fun to me. Now, of the verb lernen, we have formed an activity, a noun, and then whenever we do this, it's always neutral. Then just make sure that you write it in capitals. Very important in German. All nouns need to be written in capitals, because if you don't do this, the meaning can completely change. Like, for example, the word morgen. Morgen written in small letters means tomorrow. But if you write it in capitals, then it means the morning. Okay, and it happens very often that the meaning changes. So please make sure that you write all nouns in capitals. In German schools, we are drilled to write it the right way, okay, because it really makes a difference. So whenever you take a verb and you form a noun, it's always neutral. Okay, spielen here, like the playing as an activity, and it would become a noun, so you would have to say das Spielen. Okay, then the next one, ing, das Ding, das Meeting, Zentrum, Museum, Klima, Drama, das Element, das Experiment, das Bett, das Omelette. And whenever you have the beginning ge, let's say this prefix ge, most of the time the noun is neutral, but there are also quite a few exceptions. Okay, but if you have a word that starts with ge and now you're confused and you have to decide quick whether it's female, masculine, neutral, the chances are very big that it's neutral. Okay, so das Geschlecht, the gender, und das Gewitter, the thunderstorm. Okay, so you would have to learn those endings here. There are quite many, but it will help you, okay, to define the gender of the nouns. Later on, you will see how important it is to know the gender of the nouns. And keep in mind, please, to write the nouns always in capital letters. Okay, so please study this chapter, have a look a couple of times and learn the endings. And also to train, you can use the apps on the Play Store. You can put in, as I said, der, die, das, or Artikeltraining. Okay, and then you can train them whenever you have a couple of minutes spare time. Okay, gut. Dann bis zum nächsten Abschnitt. Tschüss.